Hey everybody. So this video's going to be a bit different than ones I generally do. So I normally kind of focus on gaming, but I wanted to try something new, kind of for my own mental health. Now, this definitely won't be the normal content on this channel, but I maybe it'll help me, maybe it'll help somebody else out there. And it's kind of weird to talk about the subject to a video game in the background, but that's kind of what I do. So I'm gonna keep it playing there. You can see what this is in the description if you feel like it. But the main topic of today is Alzheimer's. So you know, I just turned about 40. I'm pretty old, I guess, out there now for maybe a lot of you, maybe not. And this is not something I've ever thought I'd have to deal with, but life doesn't really care. About a little over a year ago now, and that's kind of why I thought about this. It's coming up on it's been a little over a year, but uh, my mom, who's relatively young, especially for this, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, dementia, kind of whatever you wanted to call it, and it's been a pretty awful year for me since that happened. And let me give you a little background on kind of reflecting on it, the signs of it, at least in this case. And, I hope it's helpful in some way. Now, the last couple years, my family and we all noticed that my mom was getting forgetful. We didn't think too much of it. She still seemed very capable, very normal. She would just kind of, you know, forget silly things. And, it never really crossed my mind that it was something serious. And it should be noted that a lot of this started after she retired. And a lot of this has I do have a lot of feelings of guilt. Maybe I'll cover that in another video about how maybe I could have prevented this if it's my fault. I think those are all things that I'm probably not alone in feeling when it comes to this crappy disease. But she uh started to become more withdrawn, and I never really noticed, or maybe wasn't paying enough attention, but we talked to her neighbors after all this, and they kind of said that she had started to become more withdrawn, and blinds closed. And then I learned that she had fallen at some point, and things got worse after that. It was all these things that I never kind of put together that may have had a problem. I'll also add in that she was a smoker, and that could be part of this, but nobody thought it was serious. So one day last year, we went to a wedding of one of my cousins' weddings, and I have a lot of cousins, by the way. So I go to all seemingly never-ending weddings. But my mom drove over to our house. We all went to the wedding together with my family and her. She, seemed okay enough at the wedding. A little kind of forgetful, a little obsessive about silly things like her like a coat, but I didn't think too much of it. So drove back. She got in her car and left to go home. Or at least that's what I thought happened. 2 days later, I got a call from the police in this town that's about 2 hours away from where my mom lives. And I live close to my mom, so it's about 2 hours away from me. And they said that, we have your a woman. This is her name. She's here. She uh, says you're her son. I'm like, that can't be. This has to be some sort of mistake. I mean, why would she be there? The police said she was confused. So I talked to her, and it was. It was kinda surreal. Like, it sounded like her, but it didn't. She seemed in good spirits, like nothing was wrong, but she had no idea why she was in this, town, and apparently her car was out of gas, and she was wandering the streets of this town, and, thankfully, somebody called an ambulance and let her come in. It was, like, early in the morning, too. She was there for 2 days doing who knows what. I mean, anything could have happened, and she managed to drive there. She had no recollection of how she got there. She said she was looking for my cousin who lived there, who's never lived there. So we had to drive up, to the hospital and get her. It was a really tough time. And, from that moment on, she couldn't live alone anymore. She couldn't drive anymore. So she moved in with us. We had to, go find help, uh, doctors, neurologists, and try to figure out what the deal was. She took those the tests. I forget what the tests are called that they administer. And I was in the room with her, and it was just awful that the basic things she could not do anymore. Things like remembering numbers, telling time. I mean, she still remembered who people were, thankfully, and but she had to stay with us for I think it was a month and a half or so. And, that put a lot of stress on my family. I'm married, I have a couple of kids. And, having her live with us, especially since she had taken such a turn, it just caused a lot of stress. I'm not going to lie. And, it wore on me greatly during that time because I had a full-time job still to do and, kids to take care of. And, I'll talk more about that later if I, you know, do more videos like this. I don't know if I will. We'll see. But the kind of next step for us was to find a place where she could live, and we had to go around to assisted living homes, and that was really difficult because she is not nearly as old. She is not as old as everyone else in those places. There's a lot of the residents are in walkers, wheelchairs, late 70s, 80s. My mom was in her 60s, and she didn't want to be there. She oftentimes would be like, "I'm fine, everything's fine," but I had to be that person to tell her, "No, you can't go back, you can't drive," and you never really think of having to tell your parents what to do, and, my dad's not around, he's a whole 'nother video that I'm gonna have to do, as he's been having some serious issues at the time of this recording that are of his own doing and not a medical thing, but, having to tell your especially your mom who pretty much raised me what to do. It's like I became the parent and I certainly wasn't ready for that. But there was really no choice in the matter. It just kind of what had to be done. So yeah, we finally found a decent assisted living facility and thankfully she's not so bad that she had to be in a memory care unit because that's where a lot of Alzheimer's, when it gets bad, they have to go to, which is if you're not sure, it's a strictly controlled environment and like locked doors and things like that. So uh, she didn't have to do that yet, but she had to be in a place where there's other people around, and things like that. So we found a nice one that's pretty close to the house. But let me tell you, these places are expensive. And I learned a lot about how this sort of thing works. Thankfully, my mom had saved for retirement, so the burden is not all on myself and my family, but we do have to help uh, financially because she's so young that the money's going to run out because now this extreme expense is now in. Because, like I said, these places can run like $5, $6, $7,000 a month, and that's on the lower end. If she were to go into memory care, we could be looking at 8, 9, 10 grand a month of care needed. And this is not outside of this is outside of Medicaid, because Medicaid is a whole nother issue that maybe we'll talk about. There's interest later, and that's not necessarily a place you want your loved ones to be, sadly. But on the good side of all this, we ended up finding a nice place. She's happy there. Her condition is deteriorating, of course. It's very kind of sad to see. It's something that weighs on me daily, because I can't ignore it. It's not going to go away. Things are just going to get worse, and there's nothing I can really do about it. It's just kind of the way it is. But I think that's all I want to talk about for this video. I'm going to cut it off here. I Hopefully this helps somebody out there. If you have any questions, leave in the comments. If this kind of video was useful at all, helpful at all, uh, give me a thumbs up or a comment just to let me know. It feels good to talk about it, because honestly, these things are hard to talk about because of uh, the issues involved. It's pretty personal. And in another video, maybe I'll talk about the issues of talking about this with family members and the stresses that these kind of things can put on in your life that you don't really expect. But, for now, that's it. I hope you guys have a great day.